Hey guys, today I'll be showing you how I tie-dyed for the 4th of July. Just a quick disclaimer, this is going to be a different video because although I've tie-dyed many times, a lot of things just kept going wrong. So I will be including things not to do when tie-dyeing that I have learned from personal experience. So let's start out with what I used. You're going to need a lot of water, first to soak your t-shirts in and then to dissolve your dye. For the dye, I'm using Ritz Scarlet and Royal Blue liquid dye. You're also going to need lots of gloves and rubber bands, a container that will let you squeeze out your dye. I'm just using a water bottle poked with 2 holes on the top. Some plastic food wrap, which you're going to find out was pretty much useless, and a trash bag. So the first thing you're going to do is add some detergent to that bucket of water and then soak your shirts in there completely. Then I cut the trash bag so that it could open up and be used as a table cover so that the dye wouldn't absorb into anything I didn't want it to. This is the first don't. Don't tie-dye outside if it's windy because it will just mess everything up. As you can see here, I'm having a hard time cutting the trash bag because it's windy. Since it was super windy, I definitely had to tape down my trash bag. And once I got that done, then I started to prepare the dye. Since I was going to be tie-dyeing 4 shirts, I used a separate bowl to mix my dye in so that I would get the same color every time. So yes, here's another don't. You don't need to use this much dye. I ended up using just as much as a water bottle could fill. When preparing your dye, make it darker than what you really want. It will definitely fade whenever you're finished with your product. Another reason why I do not recommend preparing your dye in a large batch is because you will have to transfer it into a small bottle and it's just a mess. Now it's finally time to prepare the shirt. Wring out as much water as you can from the shirt and place it onto your trash bag. For this first shirt, I'm going to scrunch it up from sleeve to sleeve, and then I'm going to use rubber bands to section it into 3 parts. Using the red dye, I soaked the top of the shirt until I couldn't see any more white. Make sure to soak it well with the red dye while keeping the shirt bunched up. Then on the bottom of the shirt, do the same with the blue dye. And this is when don't number 3 comes into play. So ideally, this is when I would use the plastic food wrap to cover my shirt, but since it was so windy, the wrap wouldn't cooperate, so I just plopped it into the field of grass right next to me. Don't do that. For this next shirt, I'm going to be using that classic tie-dye twist. All you're going to have to do is pinch the middle of the shirt and twist it and keep twisting it until the whole shirt becomes a circular shape. Then you're going to use rubber bands to tighten it. I also used my rubber bands as markings for where my dye would go, so I used 3 rubber bands to make 6 sections total. I used alternating colors for each section, including white. And this is where it comes back to the windiness. Just don't tie-dye in windy conditions because the dye, as you can see, is going everywhere and it's just not ideal at all. Next thing you're gonna wanna do is get frustrated with the wind and just finish your project on the grass. For the other shirts, I just used that same classic tie-dye technique, and then I let it dry in the sun for about 3 to 4 hours. After letting it dry for a few hours, I opened them up to see the design, and I was really happy with how it turned out. Then I just used a hose to rinse out the excess dye, and then I put it into the wash. This is my last don't. Don't immediately put it in the wash. If it was up to me, I would let it completely dry before washing it. But I was on a time crunch because my family was leaving the next day, so I needed to finish it as soon as possible. And this is the final product. The reason why I would have waited to dry it out is you could see that the dyes mixed and you could see the purple, but I'm not mad about it. I actually kind of like it. I also think that it would have prevented the colors from fading so much. Anyway, I hope you liked this video and thought it was helpful. Thank you for watching and have a happy 4th of July.